First, change the game to capitalism. Enemies become friends. Episode 5. Can the North Korean leadership adopt capitalism? Creating the miracle on the Taedong River. North Korea's Workers' Party can implement a market economy. Could the North Korean regime, which appears so rigid, really abandon socialism and embrace capitalism? It feels strongly unrealistic. However, I assert that this is by no means a fantasy. It is certainly not a delusion. Humanity's experiment with socialism ended in failure long ago, and true socialism no longer exists anywhere in the world. Likewise, socialism is dead in North Korea. The socialism of ideological conviction, which people held as an ideal, came to an end long ago, and most of the functional aspects of the socialist system have disappeared. North Korea's economy, which collapsed alongside the dissolution of the socialist bloc, has rendered socialist functions such as the rationing system impossible to maintain. Although North Korea declared that it was defending socialism to sustain the regime, only an ideological shell remains, merely superimposed onto the system's framework. Due to economic hardship, the North Korean people have found their own ways to survive in the informal markets, jangmadang, and even the middle and upper classes receiving rations are in a state where they cannot survive without these markets. To North Koreans, socialism is a relic of the past long forgotten, yet it remains merely a shell due to the inertia of the regime. The leadership in Pyongyang also recognized the need for change and once considered adopting a Chinese-style reform and opening up. Witnessing China's rapid development and dazzling growth firsthand, they contemplated the introduction of capitalism, but ultimately abandoned the idea and closed the doors. It is said that they feared the presence of South Korea, which they would encounter through opening up. Even now, the North Korean leadership thoroughly isolates and keeps a watchful eye on South Korea. What is it that they fear so much? There is no reason for the North Korean leadership to fear or deny the proposition that socialism has failed and that capitalism is the answer to the economy. Capitalism is more likely to revitalize North Korea's economy and people's livelihoods than to cause any harm. We must not turn a blind eye to the reality that the Jangmadang market economy is currently responsible for the people's livelihoods. How does acknowledging a practically functioning capitalism instead of socialism which has already vanished harm the system? Unless they harbor the anachronistic delusion of restoring socialism someday or are simply resentful that the people are prospering on their own, is there any other reason? Capitalism poses absolutely no harm to North Korea's current authoritarian regime. On the contrary, if the leadership possesses a clear vision, capitalism will become a powerful weapon for economic development and system stability. There is no longer a need to be conscious of South Korea's capitalist development. Instead, the economic gap will become a goal to pursue and serve as a motivator. A capitalist culture suited to human nature will inject vitality into society, and the people and the leadership will share a sense of accomplishment as they witness the economic gap with the outside world rapidly narrowing due to the growth of the capitalist economy. If the leadership in Pyongyang merely acknowledges the capitalism that has already taken root in North Korea and sustains the people's livelihoods, they can officially adopt a market economy without significant burden or excessive reforms, thereby ensuring regime stability through the resulting economic development. Furthermore, considering the United States, which will pressure North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons, a paradigm shift in which North Korea preemptively introduces state capitalism for survival is not a choice, but a necessity. By declaring the adoption of a capitalist market economy, the very landscape of dealing with the United States and South Korea is changed. It shifts the stage from a confrontation between socialism and capitalism to the same playing field of capitalism, redefining the relationship as one of mutual benefit. For the United States and South Korea, the situation shifts from a territory that North Korea must push into and overturn to a space where they must enter, join hands, and preemptively seize opportunities to generate greater benefits. For North Korea, the United States and South Korea are no longer primary enemies invading ideologically and culturally with the yellow wind of capitalism, but rather models to learn from and mentors who will support and guide a colleague they have belatedly made. The landscape of the relationship between North Korea and China also changes. To North Korea, China is a large, big-framed neighbor absolutely necessary yet fearful, whose overwhelming assistance is burdensome. Yet they cannot help but depend on it. They receive help, but remain wary of being swayed. The power of China's reform, opening, and market economy was also perceived as a threat to North Korea, a fellow communist state that cannot replicate it. While North Korea was once like lips that keep teeth from feeling cold to China, it has now become a troublesome, impoverished younger sibling whom China wishes to get rid of, yet feels reluctant to do so immediately. Even when North Korea developed nuclear weapons, disregarded China, and crossed the line, China, needing North Korea as a buffer zone, could only tolerate it. If North Korea adopts a market economy, China becomes an excellent model, investor, and market. Furthermore, with the U.S. and maritime powers keeping China in check within North Korea, there is no longer a need to fear that North Korea will be completely absorbed by China as in the past. Since China has long desired for North Korea to reform and open up, it will be relieved of the burden of supporting the country. North Korea's utility will increase, serving as a subcontracting base for Chinese capital and a gateway for the 3 northeastern provinces to the sea. Additionally, China will achieve a balance with Western powers, such as the U.S., within the North Korean sphere, eliminating concerns about a sudden collapse of North Korea. Once North Korea chooses a capitalist market economy, it will be liberated from the ideological and cultural burdens associated with sending personnel globally, and North Koreans will be freed from the stress of defection. It is the same stage, but changing the lighting and colors transforms a dark, terrifying atmosphere into a bright, spring-like mood. If the North Korean leadership believes in the magic that a capitalist market economy can work in North Korea, there is no reason why they cannot adopt capitalism. Next time, we will examine together why state capitalism is the answer for North Korea to succeed in economic growth. Thank you.